Welcome to Flat Ride of the Week, Episode 4. Today I'll be having a casual discussion with Alex about various Starflyer and Windseeker type rides. I'll mostly talk about the Windseekers and American Starflyers, as those are what I'm most familiar with, and Alex will talk more about the European rides, as that is what he's more familiar with. Let's get started. Okay, Alex, so let's talk about the history of the Starflyer. Tell me about the first Starflyer.
So, the first Starflyer ride made its appearance at Wiener Prater in 2003. It was built by Funtime and owned in 2004. It was simply called Starflyer. It was about 60 meters or 200 feet tall, and it had 12 single chairs. Until 2007, when half of the single chairs got replaced by double chairs, making the capacity 18 people per ride. In 2010, it left Wiener Prater and got sold to Mellors in the UK. Mellors is known because they own a fantasy island with the custom SLC and stuff. When it got sold to the UK, it was fully fitted with double seats, making a capacity of 24 people per ride. It's currently still traveling in the UK, and it goes every year to the Winter Wonderland in London. And just 1 year after the prototype opened in Wiener Prater, Funtime also made a traveling version for the German showman Gutzke. It debuted at the famous Oktoberfest in München in 2005. It had a height of approximately 50 meters or 165 feet. The capacity was 24 people per ride, and it's currently traveling in the UK. So the first Starflyer with the thicker tower, which is taller than the others, it also opened at Wiener Prater as a replacement for the original prototype. It opened in 2010 and it was called Praterturm. It's 117 meter tall or 380 feet tall, and it opened as the tallest Starflyer in the world. We will tell you more about the tallest towers in the world later. This kind of tower has the same capacity as the normal ones, so 24 people per ride.
And then Six Flags famously added versions of the ride, named Sky Screamers, at most of their parks, of some variety of that name, from 2011 to 2019. I'd assume they'd still buy them if they had parks to add them at, including two 400-foot or 122-meter versions to Six Flags Over Texas and Six Flags New England. The Starflyer at Six Flags Over Texas briefly held the world record for the world's tallest Starflyer. And then another thing is the Starflyer is a much older concept than the Windseeker, as you've already heard with the history. Windseekers, as we'll be talking about in a minute, didn't debut until 2011. Meanwhile, the first Starflyer was 2003, correct?
Yes.
2003,
correct.
Yep. A lot of shorter Starflyers, such as the one at Six Flags Darien Lake, have a bounce in the cycle, meaning the ride will go up, down, and then back up, leading to a really intense ride experience, especially when compared to like a Windseeker, which are very tame in comparison. And then Starflyers also can be easily reprogrammed to run backwards for special events. Six Flags Darien Lake famously does that. A lot of the Six Flags parks do that for Fright Fest.
Funtime Starflyers can actually operate in high winds up to 74 kilometers per hour or 46 miles per hour. Windseekers cannot do that.
And then the current tallest Starflyer opened in 2018 in Orlando, 450 feet tall or 137 meters, tallest in the world. I've actually ridden it. It is very tall. Doesn't have as good of a cycle as the Darien Lake one.
There are currently two portable models of the Funtime Starflyers, the 54 meter version or 177 feet, and the 38 meter version or the 125 feet. Both versions require a crane to set up. However, an 80 meter or 262 feet model that will not require a crane is currently in development.
And then moving on to the competition, we have the Windseeker, which was made by Mondial. Still in production. We're going to be talking a lot about this one as it's very popular in Cedar Fair parks across the U.S. Cedar Fair was buying a ton of these. So let's get started. There are three models. The prototype, which is 301 feet tall or 92 meters. It fits 64 riders per cycle. The first ones, all the prototype models opened in 2011. 4 were built, at Canada's Wonderland, Cedar Point, Kings Island, and Worlds of Fun, which actually was originally at Knott's. It was relocated to Worlds of Fun in 2014. The price of the prototype Windseeker was $5 million. And then we move on to Model 1 Windseeker, which is exactly the same as the prototype except without the problems that I will cover in a moment. The Windseekers were very troubled rides at first and still kind of are. And two of these were built, one at Carowinds and one at King's Dominion, each of which was $6.5 million US dollars. And then we have the final model of Windseeker, the Mini Windseeker, which is 260 feet tall or 79 meters. First and only one, opened in 2014 at Adventureland in Iowa. It's named Storm Chaser. And then moving on to the problems with the Windseeker, and you might want to buckle up here, there are quite a bit. So a lot of problems were found in the prototype Windseekers. So the Canada's Wonderland Windseeker was the first to open, and it was found that the seat could swing too freely, leading to multiple instances of gondolas hitting each other mid-ride. In fact, a Canadian morning news show, a reporter was riding the ride, as sort of a promotion. Winds picked up when he was at the top of the ride. The gondolas around him started hitting into each other. And he asked the park correspondent sitting next to him, "Is that supposed to happen?" And they just didn't respond, just ignored it. So yeah, that was quite a problem with the prototype Windseekers. After a couple times of this happening, they realized it was a real issue, and they were able to add dampeners to the ride, which you can sort of see around the ring of the Windseeker. They look like sort of big shock absorbers to keep these swings from getting too close to each other. And then another major problem occurred on Cedar Point's Windseeker when high winds somehow dislodged some of the electrical cables inside the partial plastic cover. If you've ever ridden a Windseeker, you can sort of see it on the tower itself. It sort of climbs the tower with you. One of the cables apparently got out of that casing. As the ride started to descend, the cable tore the casing apart, and eventually the cable actually snapped, stranding the riders halfway up the ride for a period of about an hour before they manually lowered it. So one of the many major flaws of the Windseekers, all related to wind in most cases. The reason that you get so many problems with these colliding is, at least with the prototype, was that unlike the Starflyers, the swings are very close together, and they're heavier as well. So wind can really grab them a lot easier than it can the much less solid swings on a Starflyer. And I mean, it shows with the capacity, 64 versus I think the best a Starflyer ever achieved was 48 people. You can really see how much closer the swings actually are. So that's why a lot of that became a problem. And then another problem with the Windseekers opening year, and still this one kind of persists, is Knott's Windseeker and every Windseeker was stuck at the top of the tower for various periods of time. Knott's had happened twice. Both times were over 3 hours. This led to the state of California shutting down the ride, forbidding it from operating in the state of California, which is why it was moved to Worlds of Fun. So that's the Windseekers. They are still a very problem model. I think the only reason Cedar Fair went with them is because they are higher capacity than the Starflyers. But in every regard, the Starflyer is a better, safer, and just all-around better equipped ride.
So yeah, another competition which is still relevant, they're still getting bought a lot. They are from Czech knockoff companies. They make smaller transportable Starflyers, and they're very popular here in France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. They are actually very popular. A lot of them got built, and they visit small fairs, big fairs, and they're a success at both kind of fairs. They're doing really good. Also, other companies made Starflyers like Fabry, for example. They also made some smaller models, but I don't think any other companies went like with tall Starflyers.
Yeah,
They
if
always
you want a tall
make
Starflyer,
smaller.
it's got to be a fun time, more or less.
Yeah. Actually, a Dutch family, showman family, made a Starflyer. The family is called Van der Beek. They made 3 of them, and they were around 70-meter tall, which is approximately 230 feet tall.
Wow.
And all 3 of these built-in house Starflyers are actually still traveling here in Europe.
All right. And then for some final concluding facts on some of these rides. So, kind of a fun fact, Windseeker at Cedar Point actually broke my fear of rides. I saw the opening year commercial on TV and told myself I'd ride it. And as soon as I went to the park that year, I did, and it wasn't that scary because it's a really tame ride. If you ever ride one, it's basically just an open air observation tower, and it was perfect. I loved it. Another thing I will mention about the Windseekers, the one thing they do have on the Starflyers is the lights, because the Windseekers, since they have such a solid arm instead of the chains going down to each individual gondola, you can get a really, really nice light package on them that actually looks really great at night at every park these things are out at. And an interesting thing about Cedar Point's Windseeker in particular is all of the Windseekers have a light at the top of the tower that shines down on the rest of the tower, so you can sort of see the actual tower itself. Cedar Point's Windseeker is the only one that does this. When the ride itself starts, that light on the top of the tower turns off, so the only light you'll see is the gondola itself spinning around. It's very nice and gives a very cool effect. It looks just great in the skyline.
And then another fact is that Alex Airport, which was built by Funtime, it's a transportable Starflyer with a capacity of 48 people, which is a lot for a normal Starflyer, which is transportable. It first traveled on the German fair circuit with Gutzke, which also traveled with the prototype transportable Starflyer. And then it got sold to LH Gardens, where it still operates today. It replaced a Haas top spin.
Oh. All right. Well, I think that's all we have to say about these types of rides. If you have any questions, be sure to ask in the comments below. I certainly have. If I had to pick any of these rides, I would pick a Starflyer. They're just so fun, so reliable, just great rides as a whole. Some of the competition, not so much. But yeah, I think that about concludes. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.